and welcome to the Let's Ace Your List series, all about how to build an email list and a list of really engaged followers. I am so excited today. Well, first of all, let me tell you who I am. I'm Leanne Pruett. I am your host. I am so excited today. We have Troy Hipolito with us. Troy, it is so great to see you. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Let me tell you a little bit about Troy. Troy is the not so boring LinkedIn guy. He is a LinkedIn influencer, a LinkedIn business coach, and he is the host of The Troy Show.
Yep.
He helps you build your all-star personal brand with a human connection to really gain high-value clients. And the reason that I am so excited to have Troy on here today is because Troy is such a LinkedIn expert. I know all you have to do is go and look at my LinkedIn profile and you can tell I know nothing about LinkedIn, but it is such a valuable way for entrepreneurs to build up their connections, to build up their list, to build their list of clients, that I really wanted Troy on here so he could give us the whole scoop about LinkedIn. Now, first of all, I wanted to ask you, how did you end up doing what you're doing? How did you end up being the not so boring LinkedIn guy?
Oh, yeah, that's an interesting story. I had an IT company called ISO Interactive. We did work for Coca-Cola, Xbox Mobile, a lot of movie releases and things like that. So we did apps and sites and a lot of gamification. So it was going well. We had a small little agency, everything was pretty exciting. Developers with the designers and all this other stuff. And we got most of our work through the other agencies. So either directly from the Fortune 500 companies or through the agencies. And it all worked really well until it didn't. So I'm in Atlanta, close to you.
Mm-hmm.
And you should, we know that Atlanta has some tax breaks. So a lot of the Fortune companies come here for the tax breaks.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of those companies come here are corporate. And so they stopped using a lot of the agencies to do their work. And they brought the teams within and it killed the whole market. And then all my friends and buddies and people that were giving me work, instead of being my best friend, they ended up being my worst enemy. And because the work I do is very specific, and they cannot do the work I do. So it was a competition. So they did not want to lose a little bit of work, and I'm not going to fight over pennies. And I said, this is crazy what I'm going to do. And so I talked to a good friend of mine. He had an agency very similar to mine. And so the style of work was a little bit different. And so I was razzing him a little. I said, hey, buddy, my work is better than you, but you're getting all these projects. How are you doing it, right? And he does good work, by the way. I was just messing with him. And he says, yeah, LinkedIn. I said, what? And I talked to a sales guy in New Jersey. He said, yes, I get all the clients through LinkedIn. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? What is this LinkedIn resume type of thing or whatever? But my friend that owned the other agency, he was a very good communicator. He was a relationship building person, and I was not. I was a doer. I was a programmer. I was a designer. I was a guy that tells you bluntly what needs to happen. And so in a sense, I realized that I was not suited for LinkedIn. I was what you would call a terrible dater, like in real life. So I have some type A traits. So I'm blunt. So I don't mean to be mean or anything, but a little rough around the edges. And I realized there's a lot of terrible daters on LinkedIn, daters for business, old-fashioned dating. And but I was really good at systems. So I systematized the ability to slow date for businesses. And I'm finding out that a lot of people don't know how to date on LinkedIn, date for businesses. I mean, it's like someone coming up to you and saying, oh, I find you so beautiful. I want to get married and I want to have the white picket fence, and envisioning all, it's like way too much, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the style what a lot of people are doing on LinkedIn. They're not trying to actually build a relationship. They're trying to sell their product. And I don't sell. Matter of fact, if I have a meeting, I don't even tell them my flagship offering or prices or anything unless they specifically ask. I'm there to just solve their issue because I need to build that trust. I need them to know that sometimes I'm not the right person. Maybe someone else is, and my only goal is to kind of fix their immediate issue. And so we built this system and it worked really well. It worked so well, I built the company so around it.
The Troy agency. I love
Yeah,
that.
the Troy agency. Yeah.
Well, that is so interesting. And I'm going to share with you. I hadn't shared this with you before. It's like when the reason that I got on, I was like, I'm kind of like you. What is this LinkedIn? I don't want to do
Yeah.
it seems so corporate from my previous life as, very corporate, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't want to mess with LinkedIn. But I had so many entrepreneurs telling me they were getting such great results on LinkedIn. And
Mhm.
one of our friends, Suzanne Taylor
Oh
Taylor
yeah.
King,
Yeah, I know
who's also on
Suzanne.
this series, she said, you got to get on LinkedIn. I've got all these people I'm going to introduce you to. And I was introduced to another person that you also know, that is a LinkedIn expert. And when we had a call, this person spent the whole time telling me like how awful my profile was. I know how awful my profile is. It's actually a little better now. We fixed it up.
Maybe his approach
Um,
was different.
and she's like,
Good intentions, bad approach. Like
exactly. And I just said she. So now, but she's like, she tried to sell me like a consulting, like, here, work with me. It's like, a few thousand, several $1,000s. And I'm like, no, that was not,
yeah.
yeah, it left me
She
feeling
was
bad.
speed dating, huh?
Yeah, she was very speed dating. And you was like, and then when we talked at the end, I mentioned like my LinkedIn profile's off. You're like, yeah, I'm gonna send you something that might help. But it was like you weren't trying to sell me on that kind of stuff. And it was, she was absolutely, let's
Yeah.
get married. And I like you, let's get married tomorrow. And it's like,
Yeah,
no,
let's
no,
have all the
I'm just
children
like,
and the family, and yeah, it's like way
exactly.
too much too fast.
Exactly, exactly. So now, what do you think? Well, I guess that probably is it. When people are trying to build a list of followers, be it on LinkedIn or be it on their email or whatever social platform they're
Mhm.
on, would you say that probably the biggest mistake they make is not really knowing how to engage or how to properly engage, or what other mistakes should they make?
Well, I think you should always come from a place of service.
Mhm.
So you should never be thirsty for business. I turn down more clients than I pick up. I only pick up maybe 2 to 3 clients maximum a month because they're residual. And so I can make plenty of money, just with a few clients. So you have to really have that mindset of how can I slow down and actually help these individuals? Because when you talk to someone and you have a meeting with someone and they come with an issue, if you help lessen that pain or fix the problem for that individual, not the team, not the company, for that individual, because you're talking to that person,
Mhm.
there's only one of three things that can happen. Number one, they'll go back, they'll do whatever you say, they'll fix it, and you've done your good deed. 15 minutes of your life. I don't know why, but when I help people, I feel better. So it's a little selfish actually, but it's true. The second thing is they pre-vet themselves. So they said, oh, this works. And they look to the left and look to the right and say, man, I got 20 other issues. I don't want to do this. I'm going to have Troy fix this. And they hire me. And if
Yeah.
they don't hire me, that means maybe they don't have the budget or whatever, or they don't have the time or whatever the case may be. The third thing is if you help someone, the relationship thing is your ask has to be equal to the relationship in
Mhm.
any kind of type of conversation. And since you helped them, you can ask them for something,
Mhm.
and it can be a reference or a referral.
Mhm.
50% of most of your referrals, 50% of all businesses, well, all solopreneur up to small businesses, they typically or half of them are referral based.
Mhm.
So it's much easier to have someone say, hey, Troy is a great person on LinkedIn. and it can help you convert from a friend versus me saying, "Hey, I'm so great, I can help you convert," because they don't really know me.
Right.
And so through association and trust, that trust is paired over to you, and it really works. So you should never really try to sell. You should tell them what you're doing, if it's appropriate. They should understand what you're doing with your profile, and you should create an environment where people seek you.
Yeah. It's so interesting. All of this, it's like, it really is, I do a lot of work, mindset work, and also like,
Hmm.
energetics.
Hmm.
I mean, it's like, some people think like
Yeah, I have several coaches. I'm a
and like,
LinkedIn coach,
yeah.
and I have several coaches. We're experts in our fields, but we need people
Yes.
like you to kind of reset and
Mhm.
refocus, and so it's very important to have other partners that you pay.
Right. But it's like my point is like, it's all about the vibration, it's like it,
Hmm.
and it's like, yeah, that sounds woo woo, but it really is. It's like, it's physics, it's quantum mechanics. We all vibrate. Everything vibrates somewhere. And is your vibration attracting, or is your vibration, repelling, that sort of thing?
Or
You
what type of people are you attracting?
exactly.
You could have the wrong.
Exactly. Are you, yeah.
Yeah, are you attracting the wrong clients?
Exactly.
If your clients are never paying you or they never show up in the meeting, I said maybe you're like attracting the wrong people. You have
Maybe
to
your vibration's
realize that
off.
so you can
Yeah.
make a little shift.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, now let me ask you this. Like I said, I was particularly excited to have you on this series because you can speak. You're so you can speak in link about LinkedIn, which
Mhm.
clearly I cannot. But I'm wondering, this series is all about building your list, and it's proven ways to build a list of engaged followers. And I at first I was going to call it an email list, but I decided to just make it list because I think there
Mhm.
are, I come from a little old school where, what I was taught, you build an email list because the email list is always there. Nobody, they can't change the analytics or anything on you. You won't lose
Mhm.
your followers.
That's a good point. Yeah.
But I mean, I know that like you work so much on LinkedIn and stuff like that. Do you think something like LinkedIn can replace an email list?
Well,
Why or why not?
I
Mhm.
have a couple of different methods, and some are new. I don't think having email lists is bad. I think not managing your email list is bad.
Mhm.
So a lot of emails just go straight to spam. So they
Yeah,
say about 40% of emails on average don't make it in the inbox.
yeah.
And the reason, there's a number of reasons from how you're setting up your email reputation, domain reputation, the type of email that you're sending, the engagement of the audience, but a lot of that has to do with are you cleaning your list? So when I first started my LinkedIn event, and there's something called a LinkedIn event and a LinkedIn Live, they're kind of separate, right? They're two different things. Well, the LinkedIn event, I was able to capture emails, and I really like that. And so I tried that at first. In a week, I got like 1,200 emails, and then within 2 months, 2 or 3 months, about 3 months, I got about 5,000. The issue was targeting. It was an experiment, right? I said, "Wow, a lot of people want to really." I said, "But if you are not doing business in that country, or if there's not a two-way transaction on that stuff, you're probably attracting like the wrong people that will never provide any value."
Mhm.
So they have what they call energy vampires. They just take,
Mhm.
they
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
take. I always want a good exchange of energy, right? And so I looked at that and I said, "Oh my goodness, I had to clean this list." So we had about, I'm guessing around 5,000 people, and we reduced that list instantly to less than 2,000.
Mhm.
And it's very important too, because if you are sending out emails, a lot of those people that you don't normally do business with, sometimes their emails aren't valid. Sometimes they don't open the email, you know what I
Mhm.
mean? And so if you're engaged, if you're doing an email blast system, you're sending out a bunch of emails at one time, you have to have a certain open rate.
Right.
So keeping your list is super clean is important. Now, the method that I've used in the past was a LinkedIn event. And as I created an event, it collected emails. I could download that and then run it into the system. And I just stopped that actually.
Okay.
And I stopped it because it was I wanted a central location for the event. Once the event happens, you got to refresh the date right before the event, which could be misleading, and you don't want to do that. But I had some great vanity numbers. Oh, 3,000 people are visiting this event. 600 people are visiting this event, right? And then LinkedIn make changes, like you were mentioning, like you are not in control of certain changes. So having an email list, it might be a good idea to move that off of LinkedIn and have a central way of collecting emails, maybe on your website, and how people can know about that. There's a lot of different ways to do that. I have 20 something thousand connections or whatever, right? Under 30,000, but I'm able to message a lot of people. And I said, I'm doing this awesome thing. If you're interested, feel free to, and you can move them over. You can also have guest people on your show. So if I have a panelist agreement or a speaker agreement, and my speaker agreement is a little different. I don't pick up speakers unless they have an audience, and they cross pollinate. So they email about the show, and and I email about them, and I promote them through post, through direct email, through other engagements and things like that. And then I have them to invite people to the show, So what I've done now was, I said, they have this LinkedIn newsletter. Okay. And I really didn't dive into it. I started it last Friday. So between Friday evening and Monday morning, I think I had about 1,300 people register on it. Yeah. So, but I don't have to email them. So what happens with a LinkedIn newsletter, and that's separate from email, of course. That's a different way of building a list. What that does is, whenever you have a new newsletter, it sends it out to your entire network. Okay. They get a message. They email them as well, and so the deliverability rate is very high on that. And the longevity is good too. And you have a central location for your newsletters. So I'm taking both of those approaches, and I'm changing from the event approach to more of the newsletter, because a newsletter can talk about whoever I'm talking about, and mine's the most interesting things and people to know. A newsletter. And because that's what I post anyway. I post tips and tricks and people that I meet, and people always want to meet interesting people because they're all doing some kind of business. I have a show today, and it's about teams. I'm not really a big team person, but I do create statements of service operating procedures and all that other stuff. I may have someone that's really about mindset, someone really about, maybe sometimes I do another LinkedIn expert, and we'll go head to head on concepts and ideas. I don't really care. I don't believe in competition. So if you create an entity where people are intrigued or they can benefit from it, it really, really works out. So that's how I would do it anyway.
So now let me ask you, so the Troy show, it's not a podcast. It's a LinkedIn. You do it through LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's a LinkedIn Live.
Yeah, LinkedIn Live.
So there's an advantage of LinkedIn Live as well. What I will do in March is I'll do the LinkedIn Live and then create a podcast out of it. And then from a podcast, I'll do streaming TV. That's a third platform. So an actual TV, when people want, there's something called streaming TV. That's a service as well. I just haven't had, time to do that. But the advantage of a LinkedIn Live is that LinkedIn will create a post on it. And then on that post, we'll put the replay. So you may only have 10 or 20 guests, on the LinkedIn Live. They're watching it live, but you can have easily over 1,000 people on the replay. Another thing that we use is Restream. I think StreamYard is another one. I
Right.
use Restream just because I'm familiar with that one. It seems to be a pretty solid solid platform. And what I do is my guest speaker is has his own media following.
Mhm.
So when he goes and he pairs up all his social media, LinkedIn Live, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, and it could be 20 other platforms, but those are the kind of the main three ones, right?
Mhm.
And so when he pairs his live and I pair at least three of my live, we're multiplying that audience. And
Okay.
so my LinkedIn Live may only have 5 or 10 people on it, but his may have 5 or 10 people, and his YouTube may have 10 people and whatever. But if you count if you're able to count like how many uh, views you actually have on the replay, it could be thousands and thousands and thousands of views.
Mhm.
So you got to think strategy when you're kind of building these shows. How can I provide value to my audience? How can I provide a format that's easy to digest?
Mhm.
And then go from there.
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned something earlier that you touched on it, and I want to point this out too because this is such a useful thing. You mentioned like you've got the LinkedIn Live, and then you can repurpose that as a podcast, and also with the streaming TV. It's like you're not reinventing the wheel. You're taking good content and repurposing it in different ways. So you're making use of something that you've already done rather than having to reinvent the wheel each time.
Oh yeah, I will tell you, I am not a. I'm just getting started on some of these things. I'm not a master of it. I mean, I'm a systems person, so I can speak on it and I can build it. But I build it appropriately. I don't do everything at once because I have 2 clients I need on board right now.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, money first. You gotta
Yes.
kind of sometimes you gotta do that. And of course, you want to break off the tasks that you don't need to do. But I have a friend of mine, Dr. A Addison, I think her name is. She has the Schools Without Borders thing, and she has a few years ago. It took her 3 years, but she produces over $100,000 a month on her streaming services, right? Which is great. But it is about 20 hours of work a week, like solid 20 hours. And she has 2 shows a week. So she's kind of and she's probably making a lot more now. I think the last time I interviewed her, it was 2 years ago.
Mhm.
But if you create systems and you create a product that people want, just put them on the right vehicles
Yeah.
to get distributed out
Mhm.
properly.
Yeah. And maybe it's more than one vehicle. So you put it on this one and then you put it on that one and then you put it on that one.
Yeah,
So
you can time it out. You can strategy time it out a month. You could take one episode and then you can chop off clips. You can do the Gary V model. The Gary V model is you take a long format and you chop it up in smaller bits.
Mhm.
So those are tasks that you can actually outsource.
Right.
So you can have great content. You're not doing everything yourself. I mean, as far as video editing, I'm not. I don't do fancy stuff. I use Instagram to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah.
These features are and the music's really good. And
Yeah.
sometimes I'll pull it off Instagram and put it to a LinkedIn post,
Mhm.
in short format. Or I'll use V.io, which is a paid like online service that has some video editing capabilities. But
Mhm.
I don't really do like very high end. I do very simple stuff because
Mhm.
a lot of people don't like stuff that's too polished because they seem a little stuffy, you know.
Yeah.
And so they just want something real. They want usable information and usable content.
Mhm.
One other thing, and I'm probably droning off right now, but about a LinkedIn Live and using Restream is a LinkedIn only allows you to use one channel,
Oh,
right?
okay. Mhm.
So if you have a company page or
Mhm.
several company pages and stuff, it won't allow you to do that. Or if you have, I have a lot of clients that could potentially run it on theirs if they want it. Well, they probably wouldn't. But you can also say, okay, I ran a live, and then later next week I can rerun the live on my company page, and
Mhm.
that's really cool because then you're expanding to another option, and the live part is on LinkedIn because people can chat in real time in live. So there's a lot of strategies that you could use to really expand that kind of system.
Right. Right. Yep. I like that. Now, you mentioned a second ago that you have a couple of clients in inboarding. And I wanted to talk a little bit about like what you do with your clients, and with this is the Troy agency. So what sort of things do you help your clients with? Clearly, all LinkedIn stuff, but what sort of like?
Yeah, well, it's not all LinkedIn. A lot of it's business, like core business ideas, and then picking up the clients that I know I can help. I can't help everyone.
Right.
So if someone is, say, an old school salesperson, right? They're used to hitting it hard and volume and all that stuff. Well, a lot of those individuals, and I'm not saying all of them, but it seems like they're just trying to sell product, right? I want to work with people that are there to actually help that individual truly network. You know, sales is a byproduct of helping other people. That's a hard concept for a lot of people to understand. I said, well, how would you help this person? You know, not your product, but how would you help this person? You know, and so I have a lot of business expertise and just concept and branding that allows things to flow. So the purchasing decision is 80% of how they feel. That's it. It's 80. How do I feel about you? 20% is the product. You know, I mean, do you think that sounds crazy, right? 20% is 80% is like, I like this person. I think I can work with this person. You know, that's it. So how do you get to that point? You know, and people, they forget all the steps. They forget about pre-engagement. They forget about how do I strategize in providing value to my prospects. You know, I don't even call them prospects. I call them your people. You know, because you're dealing with people, but people understand prospects sometimes they're on these shows and stuff. So you have to figure out a strategy, like how can I give the most value in the shortest amount of time? You know, and I'll give you like if someone wants to have a meeting with me through your show, I'll give them a repeatable daily task sheet, right? So they can get in and get out and convert. And one of those tasks is how can I convert right off of a connection, which is really hard to do because it's so many ways to do it wrong, right? I said, well, me personally, I get enough volume where I don't need to follow up on people. I just don't. But following up is also a great idea, depending on the business model you have, right? So it's not good or bad. It all depends on what you're doing. But when someone connects with me, I go to my connections and I scan. So who are ideal people to talk to? And so I'll go and I'll use my phone, my mobile app, and I'll do a video. And I'll do a video is 30 seconds long. It's not talking about me, it's talking about them. So of course I look at their stuff first, their profile, company page. I spend about 30 seconds to a minute, that's it. And then I'll do a 30-second video and I thank them for connecting. And I talk about them. I already connected the dots. I talk about them, you know, and I just tell them, hey, just take a look at my profile. If you see any dots to connect, send me your booking link and I will schedule some time with you. And it's probably pretty close to exact what I'm saying because I'm putting the onus on them. Low pressure. They don't like it, it's fine. I get a 15% conversion rate on right off the connection that way. So I don't have a problem getting clients, but you have to understand who to talk to and who not to talk to. And if I don't talk to them, you know, I may send, you know, a more general video for just for time's sakes and stuff, because I don't want to, you know, I have a limited amount of time and you want to maximize that for the right relationships.
Well, now first of all, I want to point out that's exactly when Suzanne introduced us. That's exactly what you did. You sent me a quick 30-second video. It's like, yeah, he's still doing it. No, I was kidding. And it was great. I love that. But you mentioned the 15-minute call. Well, let's go into it. You do have a gift for the audience, and it is your daily LinkedIn strategy guide. Which starts with just a quick 15-minute call with you because you want to set up
Yeah, I want to give you context.
Yeah, exactly.
So the idea is how much time in a day as a business owner, solopreneur, entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, how much time in a day do you have to be monkeying around on LinkedIn? Usually it's pretty little,
Hmm.
because you have business stuff to do.
Yeah.
So how do I cram the most important stuff in 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is?
Hmm.
And then if I'm growing and I have a VA, how do I have them handle some of these things? How do I create systems around these things? And so it's about the best way to communicate and build relationships, the fastest way to convert, and then divvying up tasks for you, or if you have any team members, you and your team members, to kind of support what you're doing. So yeah, that's pretty valuable. I usually only give that to my paying clients, and they pay quite a bit for that. Yeah, but
Well, and guys, so the link to that is going to be somewhere around this video, below it, to the right of it, somewhere like that.
mhm.
And I mean, I don't know about you, but you've heard him talk about, like, when the events, the number of emails that he receives and all that kind of stuff. And the newsletters, these LinkedIn things that are such amazing tools. I know my ears are perking up. So if I were you guys, you might be swamped now, Troy. You may be
There's a
talking.
limited amount of slots, so I won't be swamped.
So, yeah.
If it's full, it's full.
Yeah.
So
So jump on this, guys. I think this is such a huge, valuable thing. Thank you. I know the audience will love that.
yeah, sure, sure.
Now I've got a couple more questions for you. So I
Okay.
want to know, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, one type of food, what would it be?
Oh gosh, you gotta ask me another question. I don't really. You know what? There is one. Um, I don't really cook it. So, many years ago when I was married, I'm divorced now.
Mhm.
My wife at the time cooked in a crock pot. And then she put beef in there and yuca. You know what yuca is? Yuca
Yes.
is like,
Yes.
it tastes like a potato. It's a superfood basically. It's a
Yeah.
root, but it tastes like a potato. Had potato, carrots, and all this other stuff, and it was slow cooked for like 8 hours, 10 hours, or whatever, right? And that was the best stuff. And then you have just steamed white rice on it,
Mhm.
and that food and the meat would come off the bone, and you
Mhm.
have beef ribs on it. It would just be great, and your body can digest. It has a lot of nutrients in it, so I always felt really good. So I guess that would be it. I didn't think I had a favorite food until I had to think about it.
That's
You
it.
know?
I love that. I want to try. Now you made me hungry. I want to try that too. So now also I've got another question for you. What is your favorite childhood memory?
Oh my goodness. Well, that's an odd question. I don't have many memories as a child, so I have kind of a big blank spot. And I think it's probably because I think a lot of parents go through divorce and all that.
Mhm.
So I always kick it up to me being abducted by aliens, but I do because what did you do? Don't you remember? I'm like, no, I don't remember a lot of that stuff. But I do remember one time my mother bought me a big wheel. It wasn't a big wheel, it's the one with the arms, the big green machine thing.
Mhm.
And it was because I grew up pretty poor.
Mhm.
Um and to have something really cool, and her to get it, and then I was running through the woods on the sidewalk, and I could feel like I was flying, and so I remember that because it was just a great experience, because it was the thrill of having your mother providing something you really wanted, and
Mhm.
then the adventure of, like, you feel like you're on a spaceship or something,
I
so
love that. I love
yeah,
that.
I know it's kind of nerdy, but
No, no, no. Hey, we're all nerds at heart. I love it. Um, so before we wrap up the interview, is there anything else that you want to leave the audience with?
I would say that if you're trying to do something on LinkedIn, be sincere, and if you don't feel like you are up to the task, uh, you wanna do it anyway. So your inaction is gonna kill you. So you have to take action, And then the third thing is always come from a place of service. That means come from your heart.
Mhm.
So if you're saying things, you want it to be true, you
Mhm.
know. But there's a word of warning, and I guess this is the fourth thing. Um, show the scars, but don't show the wounds. Now, sometimes people make that mistake, you know, like I don't think they want to know that you had a crack problem or they don't want to know like serious stuff, but they want to know that hey, I had a traumatic childhood and um, and I learned these things out of it, you know.
Right.
So usually on some of my posts, I use that method. So one time a client had issues and I solved the issues. One time I made a mistake and I bettered myself for not making that mistake again, you know?
Mhm.
So there's or something personal happened. And I said, how do I represent this on LinkedIn where it's true, but it's not overbearing, you know? And you create a story around that, and people like that because it's real stuff, you
Mhm.
know? And they say, oh, this person on LinkedIn that's posting on LinkedIn, um, he's an actual real person. I can
Mhm.
relate to him, you
Mhm.
know. Oh, or maybe a story about the army is, oh, I was in the army, or talking about being a single parent, and I'm a single parent, or talk about being a systems person, So, or say that how did I handle this particular event,
Yeah.
and it came out to an advantage because even things that are negative, they always have a silver lining. Yeah.
I love that. That's great. Thank you so much. Troy, I have so enjoyed talking to you today. I mean, you've given me a ton of stuff to think about, and I know the audience this is just a wealth of really great information. So like I said, I loved it, and I know that audience, I know that you've got as much out of this as I did.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And audience, thank you for being here and listening to this. We can't wait Troy and I can't wait to hear what kind of really great things you take from this interview and put to use. And anyway, thank you for being a part of the series, Troy,
Yeah.
and thank
Yeah.
you, audience, for being a part of the series. Tune in tomorrow. We've got some more great interviews for you. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Bye.